Hello, crypto world. Welcome to the Chart Historian. My name is Justin, and on this channel, I delve deep into crypto charts, exploring chart structures, fractals, and patterns. This is going to be a Casper video. Now, for those of you who follow my Casper analysis, you know that I've mentioned many times that I believe Casper has a repetitive macro structure. Let's bring this chart to life. Bam. So this is TradingView. I'm going to bounce between TradingView and CoinTrader Pro in this video. So this is part of that repetitive macro structure that I believe Casper has. This is the range-bound time. So there are three fractals that make up the range-bound time. This is the first bull run structure. And you may be thinking, what? This is a bull run structure? It looks absolutely pathetic. Well, we have an example in the early days of the Casper chart of a situation like this. So when that took place after the third range-bound fractal, which is a bounce, Casper goes into its first bull run structure, and it ended up just being a basic ending note to that bounce. So the basic idea of this range-bound time, it has three basic structures in it. The first one, price moves back up after the decline takes place, and then it declines, it moves back up again, and then kind of winds its way down to a point before moving into the next range-bound structure where it moves up again, and it does this bull structure before winding down to the end of this second range-bound fractal. The third range-bound fractal, which is the bounce, it basically is the ending fractal for this range-bound time, and it is exactly that, a bounce. Now, here's the thing about these structures. Every time they play out unique, but the basic idea, the bull structure, the move up and move back down and then move back up again and then winding its way down to a point, those ideas repeat. The way they look, though, is going to be unique every single time. So that makes it hard to know exactly how this is going to repeat. We just have the basic ideas of how they will repeat. So on the bull run structure, it's essentially a bounce, and then it has this area that pulls back before moving up, or at least the one that's similar to this one. This bounce right here took place further up. I believe that this is the same structure. It's just playing out uniquely on today's chart. Now, if you have been following my recent videos, you know I have been talking about how the stock market, the indexes, are coming to a potential peak. And my last video was on Bitcoin, where I show how Bitcoin has been following the 2021 bull run peak structure. Let me show you what I'm talking about. And yes, it ties into Casper. So this is Bitcoin, and Bitcoin, it is my belief, has four boxes that take place during the move up / bull run, and then it goes into a decline. So here is an example of those four separate boxes. The fourth one is the ending box, and then of course it goes into the decline. This time around, we have the four boxes. I believe we are in the final fourth box. In fact, this peak right here is doing the exact same thing that it did in this peak. So if we copied this fractal and pasted it over here, it would look something like this. Let's zoom in on this structure. Okay, so here we are zoomed in, and as you can see, it has been following this peak structure, I would say, fairly closely. Now, the timing, height, and depth, that plays out uniquely every time a fractal repeats, and we can see that taking place here. But you can also see that it's followed the basic idea. After this, it goes into a decline. Now, how does this tie into Casper? Well, let me show you. So on the top, we have Bitcoin, and on the bottom, we have Casper. This early part is the early part of the Casper chart. So this is jumping over to CoinTrader Pro. Many of you who follow my channel are most likely familiar with this chart. This is the early days of the Casper chart. This is that time that we're comparing to on Bitcoin. So let's zoom in and get a closer look at what is taking place on this chart. Okay, so this is back in 2021. This is the third box before the peak, which is the all-time high, and then of course it moves into the decline. So If we look at Casper, which is down below, okay, so here we are zoomed in a little closer. So this is the second bull run structure that takes place in the early days of the Casper chart. We can see that it takes place after Bitcoin comes to its peak and it's starting to decline. Now, this is that third box, so it's the peak that comes before the main peak. But the important thing to note here is, when does Casper go into its bull run structure? It goes into its bull run structure after Bitcoin does. We see the same thing. So this is that really big bull run structure on the early days of the Casper chart. This one takes place in a retrace of the peak on this third box. So after the decline, it goes into a retrace. This is Bitcoin. That's when Casper comes to life and goes into its bull run. So both instances of Casper's bull run take place after the peak. They take place either immediately after, when Bitcoin is declining, or when it's doing a retrace. Let's move on a little further in time. Okay, so this is once Casper is now in its range-bound time, but I just want to make the point that when Casper moves up, it's after Bitcoin has come to its peak. So here is the Bitcoin peak. This is the 2021 bull run peak before it goes into its decline. Once Bitcoin peaks and then is in its decline, well, what happens? Casper comes to life during this decline that takes place on Bitcoin. Casper is moving up. So the instances when Casper moves up aggressively is after Bitcoin has come to its peak. Now, why is that important? Well, let's focus on Bitcoin for a minute. So this fractal that we looked at is from here. This peak structure is this peak structure. Bitcoin is repeating what it did back in 2021. The comparison we just looked at between Casper and Bitcoin was during the 2021 bull run structure. So we have potentially a repeat of what is taking place. So let's zoom into this structure. Okay, so we are zoomed in, and once again, you can see how it has been following this 2021 fractal fairly well. I believe we are currently working on this part of the structure. After this structure completes, it goes into its decline. Of course, it's not just a straight drop. There are going to be retraces as it moves down. I don't know if we've completed this structure yet. I think there's a possibility it could still move up higher, and it could be an intense move up, something where it shoots up. If it does that, it's not going to hang out here a long time, most likely. It will come back down. Of course, that's speculation. We don't know if it's going to do that. So if Bitcoin is working on this structure, historically speaking, what history shows us is that Casper comes to life during the decline that would follow. So that means, of course, this is speculation, we could potentially be close to a move up on the Casper chart. Let's focus on Casper now. Okay, so we're back on CoinTrader Pro, and this is the early days of the Casper chart. It's what we were just comparing to Bitcoin. So as you can see, I've broken up this time into smaller segments. On this part of the chart, the repetitive macro structure plays out several times. There's essentially three main parts to this structure. There's the move up, which is a bull run. There's the move back down, which are the blue boxes, which is the decline. And then there's the part where it goes sideways, and those are the black boxes. You can see that it repeats all over again. The bull run, the decline, and the range-bound time. So this is that very large bull run structure. Now, what I believe we are currently following is this bull run structure, and it's really hard to see at this scale. This is on an hour time frame, but if we zoom into this little tiny green box, let's do that. So here is the end of the sideways range-bound time. It's that bounce, and this is that first bull run structure. As I mentioned before, it's just kind of like an ending note to this larger bounce. We see the same thing taking place on today's chart. Now, This move up right here could potentially be what we are going through right now. It's just playing out lower down on the chart, or it could potentially be this little tiny bump right there, but I don't think so. Let's copy and paste this fractal onto today's chart and see how it's looking. Okay, so here we are on today's chart. This is the third ending fractal of the sideways range-bound time. It's the bounce. Here is the fractal that we just copied, and this is how it is looking compared to today's chart. So this is that first bull run structure. If this is playing out how I think it is, what we are currently doing is this bounce that normally played out higher up, or at least last time it played out higher up, but today is potentially playing out lower down. If this is the case, once this move down is complete, we would move up into the second bull run structure. As you can see, that today's pullback has been quite steep when compared to what the fractal suggests. Now, part of me thinks that this is the trend of today's chart. So charts like to repeat recent themes from their past, and as you can see, the trend for these bounces is it moves up and moves down quite intensely. We see the same thing here. It moves up, but it just pulls back almost all the way. We see the same thing happening here. So this could be a theme that's repeating, and once it completes, it will move up into the second bull run structure. Now, how does this second bull run structure even look? Well, let's jump back to that original fractal that we're comparing against. So here is that bull run structure that we're comparing to. So here's that first bull run structure. Here's that pullback, which I think we potentially are doing today. This is the second corrective structure. Once this completes, it moves up, and it has two parts to this structure. It has a lower correction and then an upper correction. And then once it moves above this second corrective structure, it moves up parabolically and it enters the third corrective structure, which includes a substantial pullback before eventually bottoming out, working its way up, and getting above the high of that third corrective structure. And once it gets above the high of the third corrective structure, it moves to the peak. As we saw with all of those bull runs compared to Bitcoin earlier in the video, this structure has potential to play out very fast once it gets moving. So that is something to be aware of. Another thing to be aware of, and this is going to throw a potential monkey wrench or just amplify the unknown. So if you've been following my videos as of late, I've been talking about how all the indexes are potentially approaching a peak. So the stock market is approaching a peak. This is something that crypto has never really experienced. Now, we don't know how crypto is going to behave in this environment. Crypto charts have repetitive structures. The indexes have repetitive structures, but we've never been to this point in the chart with crypto. So is there potentially something larger at play that we don't know about that is going to potentially disrupt the natural flow of these crypto charts? To put it another way, could the peak that is taking place on the indexes and the coming decline, could that halt any potential bull run in crypto that we are waiting on? I don't have the answer to that. So we need to be hopeful but walk with caution at the same time. We're moving into uncharted territory. It's not the rinse and repeat. The indexes have a pullback. At the same time, crypto has its bear market, but the overall index is still in a bull run structure. Now, however, the indexes are approaching their peak, and the decline that is coming is most likely going to be very intense. What we know from crypto is that it follows the indexes. So I don't have the answer to that, but I think it's something that you should be aware of and kind of understand that that force is at play, and how it affects crypto, I don't know. But today, I look at today's chart, and I don't see something that is potentially doing something different than what we should be open to and expect potentially on the chart. So anyways, I hope I've explained that clear enough. It's important to understand that I am not a financial advisor. None of this should be considered financial advice. Do your own research, stand on your own convictions. If you did enjoy this video, if you found it helpful, it'd be much appreciated if you hit that thumbs up button. And if you're not yet a subscriber, I recommend hitting that subscribe button. I'll continue to follow up on these charts as they continue to develop. And if you're interested, I have a Discord. It's actually connected to my Patreon. In that Discord, I'm active there. I update charts as they develop much more than on YouTube. It's a $5 a month subscription. I'll put a link to my Patreon in the description of this video. I'm so glad you caught this video. I hope you catch my next one. Have a great day, and bye for now.